Today we're taking a look at a certain indie game which recently debuted during the 2021 Steam Next Fest, the Valve-created digital showcase on Steam where indie developers can put up limited-time demos for their respective upcoming games. Now, because I was a bit preoccupied with exam prep during the Steam Next Fest, I was unable to play through as many of the featured games as I would have liked. However, one game I did manage to fully play through the demo of was a game by the name of Fallen Aces. Fallen Aces is a game I've had my eye on for quite a while now. It's been on my Steam wishlist for months, so I couldn't resist giving it a go myself despite my meager amount of time. Additionally, since admittedly I don't generally play a lot of indie FPS games in my spare time, my friend and frequent collaborator Van Puffin provided some additional observances I'll be going through throughout this video. Two sets of eyes, after all, are better than one. So let's get into it. First off, the art design on display here is really quite excellent. There's few things worse than textures and other assets that visually contrast and clash, sticking out like a sore thumb. The art style operates almost perfectly in sync with the level design, opting for a very simple but visually clean aesthetic. There's little to no clutter. That said, the developers do have a habit of frequently reusing a lot of assets like doors, hallways, etc., making it very easy for you to quickly become confused and spend several minutes at a time doing unnecessary backtracking as you desperately try to figure out where the hell you are. There's a very clear crime noir influence here, and I'm not gonna lie, I definitely picked up some very strong Archer vibes here, visually. I'm not sure if that was intentional or not, but given the action espionage influence, I definitely wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. The level design alternates at times between being highly scripted and linear, to at times being more open-ended, with different ways to navigate the environment if you're careful enough to take advantage of them. That said, there are sometimes entire areas of the levels that don't really contribute much and just sit there empty. Maybe they're placeholder locations for secret Easter eggs to eventually be hidden, but at the moment it does feel like certain parts of the levels can be tightened up a bit for the sake of maintaining overall consistency. The combat system is solid, the weapons all feel like they have an appropriate amount of weight to them, without going fully realistic, which would have put the gunplay at odds with the visual design. That said, I did find when throwing objects at enemies that the amount of damage felt to me to be in no way proportional to firing bullets, and was far slower than just going up and punching the enemies until they fell. Maybe that's a deliberate design choice, since throwing objects at range ensures your odds of receiving damage remains fairly low, since most of the enemies won't be close enough to melee you. So the trade-off is not doing a lot of damage to them either. Which I guess does kind of make sense, but if it was up to me, I would just nerf the stun effect and instead make the damage scale a bit more depending on the type of object being thrown. Maybe add a bleed effect for glass items or other sharp objects being thrown at enemies. The foundation of the combat system here is solid enough, but it just needs a bit of tweaking between now and when the game is released in full. Likewise, as far as combat goes, the enemy variety is definitely lacking. You only have a meager handful of enemy types to fight, resulting in the fights at times being very repetitive. Also, another enemy-related issue is the fact that when you damage them, while their health bar over their head does go down, you don't actually see any form of impact or damage being done to the character model. That lack of visual feedback makes it oftentimes hard to tell just from a glance which enemies are close to being downed and which aren't. The voice acting here, which likewise abides strictly by the usual crime noir conventions, is pretty solid. You've got your gruff, dismissive male protagonist, your typical femme fatale who gets in over her head but likewise proves to be equally capable, etc. And they're all voiced fairly well. Some of the voiceovers do occasionally feel a bit low quality, with occasional slight echoes, as if the people recording were standing a foot or two away from their mics when they said the lines. And trust me, I know how sensitive microphones can be. I've got myself a Blue Yeti pointed at my face. I get it. But when it comes to recording material for a commercial game, you have to put yourself in the shoes of an audiophile, and go the extra mile to ensure your audio quality is clear. Otherwise, it breaks the immersion factor significantly. It's worth noting that on the flip side, the enemy dialogue is actually fairly well done, with the sound design being on point, and the dialogue itself does provide some additional gameplay value to you by indicating little bits of useful information that can give you a bit of an edge if you listen and pay attention to it. Speaking of paying attention, I've somewhat hinted at this earlier, but the level design is very open-ended with lots of focus put on exploration, with multiple avenues that you can take advantage of, as well as plenty of collectible notes and secrets. One thing I was rather neutral on was the implementation here of weapon degradation. As a general rule of thumb, I don't see much utility in weapon degradation as a gameplay mechanic. There might be a few exceptions where degrading the weapons might reinforce the game's core underlining themes, like in survival games, where it would make sense for weapons or other utility items to wear down or break or become less efficient over time. Here, I can't say it really adds anything for me. There are better ways out there of forcing players to rotate through their weapons rather than just having them degrade over time. Doom Eternal, for one, came up with their own methodology of having certain weapons drop ammo for certain other weapons, and have certain enemies be more or less susceptible to certain weapons. That's not the only way of handling it, but I'm just naming off an alternative. The art style present here is a bit spotty at times, and is in need of some cleaning up. Apparently, according to the developers, most of the art and textures were created via mouse, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but often leads to a lot of little mistakes being made, making the final product look a bit rough. This is especially noticeable during the comic book panel-like cutscenes that appear here in the demo. Reportedly, these are going to get swapped out with proper cutscenes in the final version of the game, but currently, it really wasn't a good look. Overall, I did quite enjoy playing through the Fallen Aces demo. I got mostly what I expected, and while it did feel quite rough around the edges at times, I do appreciate and hope that the developers will have the time and resources needed to get this game across the finish line at some point in the near future. If you want to try out the game for yourself, the demo is still currently available to download from the game's official Steam store page, and you can also wishlist the game there if you so choose. To be clear, since I've not played the full game yet, I'm not going to openly advocate for it. I've had fun with the demo, but when the full game releases, who knows? Maybe they'll have made a lot of improvements, and maybe not. I look forward to seeing either way. Now on that note, that's where I think I'm going to wrap it up for today. As ever, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to click the like button and comment below what you think of the game. Comments really help my videos get boosted in the algorithm, plus I read and respond to nearly all comments I get, so even if you just want to drop in a comment just to say hi, or get my opinion on something, even if it's unrelated, I'll be more than happy to chat with you there. Likewise, subscribing and clicking the bell really helps. I know it's cliche, but the YouTube algorithm is a pain in the ass to deal with, doubly so as a small channel. This is Warrior Dan signing out. Stay awesome, everybody, stay safe, and peace out.
Been a long time, Michael. I heard you were back in town, but I don't remember sending you an invitation. I'd kill you myself, but where's the fun in that? No, Michael, I'm gonna roll out the red carpet for you.